But anyways, final impressions that we didn't touch upon that you do want to touch upon before we go into the Anthony Davis talk, because
I was going to bring up Anthony fucking Davis, just his impressions overall.
Well, let's just move this into the Anthony Davis topic, because what the topic really was, and Ricky brought this up, was that Ricky was really wondering, like, when is someone's prime, and I think we said 27 was the peak of someone's prime, but it really starts from 25 to 30. But I mean, there's kind of an exception with Anthony Davis, because he's 23 right now, but he's also been in the league for 4 years, and we've seen really what he's able to be able to do when he's healthy. Yeah,
he's been huge since the age of like 18. Like, this isn't a guy who's surprised us by like suddenly growing 4 inches and putting on 50 pounds of muscle. Dude was jacked like day one. He's continued to build on strength, to his credit, because that was one of the things. Like, when you see bigs come in the league, it's always they've got the height, but do they have the weight to match the athleticism? And he's done a fantastic job of growing with that.
And really, the only thing that's held him back has been injuries, and that's something that we've constantly seen. And another thing that's held him back is the Pelicans team in general.
Good Lord, have they?
Yeah, but first off, before we get into what the actual topic is, can we talk about what he's actually done so far? Because It's been utterly stupid. The only man other than MJ to score 90 points in the first 2 games. He scored 50 in the first game and 45 in the other game. In the first game against Denver, he almost had 5x5. He had 50 points. He had 15 rebounds. He had 5 assists. He almost had 5 blocks. He had 4 blocks. He had 5 steals. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous what he did. He shot 50% from the field, 94% from the free throw line, going 16 for 17. We always talked about, can he take that jump to possibly replace LeBron as the best player? Can he? I mean, because we've always had that discussion. Can he? Do you think that Anthony Davis can still do that?
Honestly, Anthony Davis could do that. The real thing is, like, what do you define as the best player? Because for me, it's not just about stuffing the stat line. And Anthony Davis,
he stuffs it.
He has no choice.
He is the stat line.
He is no choice, because he is the only thing they have in that city. So it's his responsibility to carry this team as hard as possible. And the problem with that is, just because you put up 50 and 45 and you put up, almost 20 rebounds in back-to-back games, doesn't mean your team is going to win.
Here's something. Talking about New Orleans sports here, and stat stuffers, Drew Brees and Anthony Davis, both on teams that really don't give him any help, but they both stuff the stats.
But there's one thing I hate about that comparison. I'm going to nip it in the bud right now.
Brees already won?
Drew Brees plays a position that controls the game. Anthony Davis does not.
But he can still control the game.
But no, that's the difference between him and LeBron James. When you
LeBron James can take over the game.
Fair.
LeBron James can win
Anthony
games.
Davis can still take over the game. The ball just won't be in his hand when he's bringing up the court.
And that's the problem.
But they're still going to go to Anthony Davis.
Yeah, they have no other choice.
But it's a different dynamic than the guy who's bringing the ball up
He can still have the last shot, though.
Yeah, but a floor general has a different impact
than
than the most reliable down low scorer or the most reliable shooter on your team. Like, everybody has their own impact, and to me, the reason why LeBron is still, in my mind, the best player in the league is because...
Oh, I'm not saying he's not.
And we were discussing if Anthony Davis could challenge him, and I think it's just due to the role they play on their teams, he cannot. Anthony Davis is the entire team, but unfortunately, he's not the guy who's going to be able to elevate guys around him and make them better. He can't force shit players around him to be better. He can't, get them open looks. He can't dish out, because he knows in his mind that there's a better chance that he can do it better himself.
Let me phrase it this way. Can he be the most dominant player? Because LeBron is the best player and most dynamic player, but can he be the most dominant player? Because we've seen big men be the most dominant player in the NBA, but they haven't been able to have the ball in their hands.
The last guy who we talked about being
Shaq.
It was Shaq. And that's what I want to go to, was you got a guy down low who guaranteed points every time you give him the ball. If the man could only shoot free throws, God knows the numbers. But, like, look, Anthony Davis is in the same category. He's right now unstoppable when the ball's in his hands. And the only question comes to, what else does he have to do to win a game? Because he's, as of right now, this is history.
So now getting to the question we actually were going to pose about Anthony Davis was, he's finally getting into his prime or nearing his prime, or traditionally the prime area of players' careers. And he's currently locked up in New Orleans until, I believe, 5 years.
2021.
So, 2021. And he'll be 27 when he's able to leave New Orleans Pelicans. Do you think he will be wasting his prime or his best years in New Orleans? Because we've seen the injuries that he's been suffering. We've seen that this team, there isn't really a team around him.
Has nothing to do with him. Has nothing to do with him why he's wasting his time in the Pelicans. It has to do with this organization. Because right now, I don't think this organization is going to do enough to get him pieces to be anywhere near what you need to let's even say be competitive in the playoffs. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and talk championships or anything. I think that this is something where I think by like 2019, 2020, maybe 2020, 2021 at the latest, we're starting to talk about Anthony Davis trades. That's what we're starting to talk about at that point, because I don't think this franchise is going to do anything for him.
Yeah, and you bring up the trades because obviously we saw what happened with KD leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder, but you can arguably say that they did enough to keep KD there. It was just more KD wanting to go somewhere else.
Do you think the Pelicans are going to do what the Thunder did?
That's what I was going to bring up, is that it's going to give more validity to trade rumors, down the line, but we also don't know what they can do in the next 4 years because we know they drafted your boy Buddy Hield, but I mean, so far in the first 2 games, he has not done anything.
But is he going to be the big thing that they need? Is they need a Robin to his Batman. Because the thing that I think about it, I was just looking at best all-time players and kind of looking through the big men. Mm-hmm. And most of the big men had somebody there with them. And the guy that I kind of looked at and thought about, Patrick Ewing, another 7-footer. I know it's different games, different eras, but he had a guy like Starks there to help him out and
Never
be
won
the
a
guy
championship,
with him.
though.
Never won a championship, but they were competitive in the playoffs.
That's fair.
They were there. They made it to a finals.
And you could say the same thing Stockton and Malone, even though they weren't able to win a championship. Shaq had Kobe, so.
But I was looking for guys that are more like that center position, because that's what I see in Anthony Davis. But that's what is going to. Anthony Davis is in a position, and it kind of goes back to your LeBron James question of LeBron James, you can put him on any team, and he makes that team better. Anthony Davis,
hold on.
Wait. You put him on that team, he makes the team pretty damn good, but it's one of those things where we're asking, what can you put around him? LeBron, we never really, except for the early times in Cleveland, it wasn't like he needs this in order to be a great player. No, he'll will you to the finals, but it's just that extra piece to get him over.
I think what you're more trying to say is if you put LeBron on any team, they can be competitive and go to at least a conference finals. Yeah, a conference finals.
To the NBA finals.
A conference finals, but with Anthony Davis, you need more than just him.
Just to get
Because if you put Anthony Davis on the Bulls right now, that team's getting better.
That team's better, but they already have pieces around him.
But I'm just saying. But you put him on the Magic, then you got an actual star instead of 10 starters.
I just love the Magic. I'm sorry.
But do the Magic go anywhere with Anthony Davis?
No, but then again, I'm just saying that you do make them better. The way what you were trying to say, the way that the phrasing was that you put LeBron on any team, they get better. You put Anthony Davis on a team, the way that you phrased it was
adds your team, but he doesn't make the guys around him better.
Okay.
LeBron James drives the car. Anthony Davis is more of a passenger.
Fair enough. But again, this is a team that their second and third best players. Second and third best players are Drew Holiday and Tyreke Evans, though. So they're both
playing,
out.
Yeah.
And Drew Holiday's a guy who is injury bitten every year. The dude's never going to play a full season.
He's currently dealing with his wife as well.
I know, but I'm saying he's never playing a full season. Period. That's just not happening for him. It's unfortunate. He's got other circumstances going on in life, but before that, it's injuries. Tyreke Evans. If your savior's Tyreke Evans, you're already fucked as a franchise. So look, let's be honest. This is a team that they have the need to do things in the offseason. Right now, he's making Tim Frazier look like an all-star. Lance Stevenson looks like a good player. This is just upside-down world. And I'm a little saddened to see Anthony Davis popping off for, historical performances, and yet this is a franchise that can't do anything right.
It just comes down to Anthony Davis's position. And it's one of those things when you're a fucking phenomenal 5 or even a 4.
He's a 4.
But if you're a phenomenal big man, you can't do it all by yourself. I'll throw 2 others out there, Bill Russell and Shaq. Yeah, they're great players, but Shaq had Kobe. Shaq had D. Wade. You put him on the Suns, you put him on the Celtics, wasn't anywhere near Shaq. Bill Russell, great NBA player.
Yeah, won 10 championships.
But he had pieces around him. It just wasn't Bill Russell out there.
He won 11.
Yeah, but was it all Bill Russell? No, that Celtics team was pretty damn stacked. So it's
but there was also 8 teams in the NBA.
And I know, different eras, and that's the thing. In this era in the NBA,
you still need a team around the guy. That's
I think probably the best really comparison would be Will Chamberlain. I mean, we talked about this consistently.
The outrageous number.
Numbers, but there's no. The reason why you put on outrageous numbers for Wilt is because there was no one else on that damn team.
level of
and
competition.
you're playing, 6-7 white kids, and Wilt Chamberlain 7-1 and just dunk it on these
And
guys.
the thing about Wilt Chamberlain was those numbers, the 95 points that Davis has scored in these 2 games, third most in the NBA, right behind Wilt Chamberlain, who did it twice.
And right above the GOAT. So Michael Jordan.
Yeah, and one thing...
And that wasn't even 90s, Michael. Yeah. That was 80s. That was 86, 87 he did that.
That was before he had pieces, though. Think about it. And it's these one-man driven teams, and in today's NBA, you can't win like that. And especially, like you said, now with a guard-driven league, as a big man, your ability to influence the game has lessened. So I think really what they need to do is go find themselves a stud, a reliable 2-man for him, and then we can watch his team evolve, watch him grow, because otherwise... they're wasting one of the most talented athletes we've seen.
And that's the one thing that with Wilt Chamberlain, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when he was putting up 50 points per game in a season, which is utterly ridiculous to say, 44 points per game in a season, his team wasn't winning championships. When he won championships was later on in his career when he went to teams like the Lakers and the 76ers in 67 and 72, where they did have more pieces around him. And that's why I'm kind of making the comparison to Anthony Davis, is because Anthony Davis is a dominant player. But like we keep saying, it's a guard-driven league. It's a star-driven league. And as how good Anthony Davis is, again, he can't carry a team because, putting up these monster numbers is fantastic. But then again, they do have 2 losses in these 2 games, and he's put up stupid numbers. So that's a big thing. And I don't know if this really would warrant an MVP award, to be honest with you, because most valuable player means that you are the most valuable player to your team.
I mean, he's setting records out there. It's hard to not.
Okay,
The MVP award right now, though, is it really
it's wide open.
The best player in the league, or is it who's stuffing the stats the most?
Hold on.
I mean, Steph won it, but we had a huge discussion of is LeBron or Steph the best player.
Well, LeBron was also
NBA.
coasting during the regular season. We can make that argument that LeBron, if the Cavs were trying in every game, they would have won over 60 games.
Yeah.
But the one thing is more of, yes, if Anthony Davis keeps up putting 47 points per game, Dave,
are you going to deny him an MVP award?
I'm not even. That's not going to be a discussion. But he's going to be a unanimous MVP because I know Ricky loves bringing up that
unanimous.
I really haven't brought it up since the finals.
Yeah, I know, but when I did bring it up, when he was, anyways. But one thing,
first ever.
Anyways, Anthony Davis, that's the one thing. Like, obviously, if he puts up the ridiculous stats, but if he comes down to earth and he's putting up like 33 points per game, but you have a guy like James Harden who's putting up similar numbers, but his team's in the playoffs, then I would say it has to go to a guy like that because his team's in the playoffs. Would you disagree or agree?
I would have to agree with you. I think your success is only as good as your team's success. And if you're the best player on your team, it's hard to not say that your effort wasn't good enough to get them to the playoffs, but I don't think you would deserve it if you can't drag a team kicking and screaming to the playoffs if you're not the MVP, you know?
No, well, and Anthony Davis kind of did that.
Depends on how good the numbers are. If the numbers are like catastrophically, we've never fucking seen these numbers before.
The best player on the Magic is not going to get the MVP no matter what because they're still trash.
But if he's throwing up like we've seen this like the 92 or 95 points every 2 games, then fucking give it to him whether they make it or not. The one thing I kind of want to throw out there, and this is a little bit of Anthony Davis, if he really thinks the Pelicans are the team and he thinks, you know what, I got to make it work here, does he eventually go out and try to recruit guys to come play with him, one of which could be Russell Westbrook? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's the big one coming up, that just guys where it's like, okay, I got to recruit guys to come play with me.
I don't doubt he's not going to do that, but I mean, also, I think it's more of, really, I mean, how much power does Anthony Davis have?
Yeah, they're not in a big market city.
God, no.
So you have very little to do. Yeah, no.
But OKC isn't a big market, so maybe that could draw in a guy like Russell Westbrook.
And that's why KD left. That's one of the reasons. It's who wants to sit around in New Orleans? No offense, New Orleans is actually a fun city. It's OKC is the one that's kind of like, really, there's not a ton to do here. So when you're trying to pull talent, the guys like, it's a ton of fun. Come hang out with me.
When you're trying to make a business too, because I mean, KD was definitely trying to be more of a marketable player, trying to be more successful, at least outside of the NBA, and going to a place like Golden State or the Bay Area. That's where you'll more succeed compared to OKC, where you got Jeff Daniels, who's the most popular businessman who's selling you guys insurance.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying I agree with that, but it's going to be definitely difficult.
It's a hard sell.
Yeah, and plus, like, how much money can the New Orleans Pelicans afford to spend? Like, I know everyone has similar cap numbers, but still, it's like how willing are they to actually go out and spend money to help AD, or is it going to be more, well, we have one of the best players in the NBA. I think
he's going to draw no matter what.
Exactly.
And they might be okay to settle with that. I mean, we've seen other teams do the same, and we've seen teams shamelessly lose games and play at salary minimum just so they can save money. I mean, it's there's no driving force that makes teams want to go for it every year, and I wish they would. I wish everybody had the same passion level where, like, you know what? We may not have the best guys top to bottom, but our guys want it more. We're going to go out there and compete. Like, this is a team where quarter of the team salary is going to Anthony Davis. Like, that's just how cap works.
23% of the cap goes this season's going towards him.
2% off.
Yeah.
So sue me.
The
rest of this, like, they need to go out and make smart moves. I honestly think that the best available guy for them at the end of this year is going to be CP3. If you bring in a floor general like CP3 who can direct
bring him back to New Orleans.
If he makes Tim Frazier put up 18, 6, and 11, CP3 is going to look like a god. Like, there's just, it's going to be ridiculous.
No, I don't disagree with that.
He needs that guy. He needs a guard. And I know we brought in Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield, was a sharpshooter in college. The dude was an absolute stud. We haven't seen enough out of him yet to make anything out of him.
But yeah, still.
So, hey, we've seen a lot out of rookies in 2 games.
Oh, no, I don't disagree.
He hasn't been one of them. And I know he's a lot of people's favorite for Rookie of the Year, especially with the 1 and 2 out of the draft, not playing. So, look, I think that they need a guard. Otherwise, they should shop Anthony Davis by year 3. Like,
really,
it's cruel to me. It's cruel for me to say that. But look, there is no reason that he should stay. And I think the unfortunate thing is I think he's too nice of a guy to say anything publicly. So he might end up trapped there for his full contract.
I don't know if he's too nice, but he might just be more of a professional to say something. But I think one thing is that do you really think do you think they'll trade him before his contract year?
They might trade him the year before.
If they can get 2 ones, I think they should.
Well, it depends on the draft class.
They're definitely going to be able to get 2 ones if they're trading.
It depends on the draft class that's coming out. It depends on, do you really think that, like, because 2 years out, you could think, well, okay, contract year, we can get him to stay.
Yeah, it's really going to depend on that year.
It depends on a lot of factors. The one guy, though, that I think that this year, I think the Pelicans have to do, they need to take a page out of the Laker book. They got to, you know what, we're going to bring in Byron Scott as a chief advisor, the tank commander.
Hey, Alvin Gentry already sucks. So.
To get a top pick.
Not a big fall.
Because, Sean, I know you're going to like this only because of...
both terrible.
Let me finish. I'm gonna make Sean rock hard here because of the team where he's coming from. They got to go after Markel Fultz, the point guard for Washington, the top point guard this league. He's going to be the best point guard in college, and that's the guy they need to go to get him. But develop Buddy Hield. There's your 1-2. Anthony Davis down low.
I don't know if Buddy Hield will be worked in as the 2. I mean, obviously we got to see how the NBA draft turns out and all this, and we got to see if they're going to be actually the worst team, because Anthony Davis can win you teams or win you games.
He can win you teams.
He can win you games. He hasn't so far, but we definitely.
I know
Drew
Holiday, Tyreek Evans.
Yeah, I don't think New Orleans will be seller. I think they'll definitely be bottom of the Western Conference, but I don't think they'll be a seller
31 team, 35.
Yeah, well, I don't know why you're saying it like that, but yeah,
I don't know.
30 to 35. Yeah, totally. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that if Anthony Davis leaves, it's either going to be in free agency, and boy, that would be fucking fun.
That'd be phenomenal.
Or it'll be the last year. I don't think they're going to trade it before.
The problem is, you're talking about going after a top point guard in the draft, and I don't think they're going to be bad enough to be available for that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
because Anthony Davis is so freaking talented, they're still going to win over 25 games, which means they're not going to get the 1 through 3 likely.
But if they'll
have better odds.
Yeah,
but
I mean, if they are in that range, though, if they are in that top range, I definitely don't see them shying away from drafting a guard, even if Buddy Hield doesn't have a fantastic season. I think they definitely need to look at getting guard help.
You got Josh Jackson up there, and it's just like,
I mean, that would be fun too, because you can get Tyreek Evans out. And you could bring in Josh Jackson. But I think that if you're going to look for anything, you're going to look for someone like a Ben Simmons who could be a point forward. Or just that type of player. I'm not saying there's going to be a player
floor general. You just need a floor general, to be honest.
Whether it's a point guard or a small forward. So yeah, I don't disagree with that, Ricky. But let's move on now to.
Before we move on, can I make one little homerism comment? Wouldn't it be fucking great at the end of the contract? Just comes to Chicago. Come on home, AD. We love you here.